Hi, I'm Rami, and I'm Chief of Staff here at Drinks, and this is the Drinks podcast, the business of online alcohol. Today's guest turned a pandemic crisis into a bottled product that's now expanding across New England. Justin Morales is founder of Up and Down Rockin' Bourbon, a craft spirit blending high rye bourbon with figs, honey, birch, and bitters. Justin created the Colonel's Old Fashioned in 2017 as a signature cocktail at his bar. When COVID shut down Connecticut bars and new regulations allowed takeout liquor license, he started bottling it for loyal customers. Waitlists formed, production couldn't keep up, and that moment proved the potential for direct-to-consumer craft spirits. Today we're exploring how to validate product market fit before scaling, why cash flow management matters more than distribution deals, and how to balance experiential marketing with building sustainable DTC revenue. Justin, you went from bartender creating a signature cocktail to founder of a spirits brand during a pandemic. Can you walk me through that moment when customers started forming wait lists for bottles and you realized this could be more than a bar special?
Yeah, absolutely. First, thanks for having me. So that was a wild time. We all obviously lived through COVID and it was pretty crazy. So what happened was when the bars were shut down, we had to kind of pivot, right? So our bar was actually shut down for about 2 months and we actually shut the actual location down. And so when I got back, when we started reopening up, you couldn't sit at the bar and people couldn't come in, but we were doing takeout. And I was barrel aging an old fashioned essentially. And I had found the barrel and it was sitting there. The juice was sitting there for about 3 months. Oh, wow. And I said, this could be awful or it could be fantastic. Mm-hmm. And it was fantastic. It was really good. So we went on social media and said, hey, we all know that you love the Colonel's Old Fashioned. We're going to start bottling it since the governor had given us the opportunity to sell to-go cocktails with the food. So we started bottling it. I had enough for about maybe 10 750s, 750 milliliter bottles. And so they sold pretty quickly. And then instantly I got a phone call probably a week later. Hey, I want more. Or my friend had a bottle. I want to get a bottle and so forth. So I started making it in this 5-liter barrel, and it takes like 2 weeks to make. So like I had to start making a wait list, and people were calling, I want it. I'll take 2 bottles. I'll take 3 bottles, to the point where like somebody wanted to buy the whole batch. And it just was like, number one, I can't do that legally. So I told them to meet me at the back door at midnight. No, that's not true. But I had, there were obviously parameters, but then at the same time, it took time to make, right? So it just kind of took off. And, that really kind of got my wheels spinning. And I thought to myself, this could be a thing, right? It wasn't just 5 people a week. It turned into 10, 20, 30 people a week. And I knew the formulation was good, at least on that small level, because people, were coming back. And it was our number one seller when we were open. So I just had to figure out how to take it to the next level and really what to do with it. And so that's kind of where it all came about.
How do you approach product development and scaling when you're used to making individual or even that small like 5-gallon barrel? Like that's very different than scaling production. How do you think about that and the differences, and how did you approach that?
Yeah, so that's a lot of mathing, right? So luckily, what I did was I basically signed up with a co-packer, a local company that was in Connecticut, a distillery, and we worked together on just increments of larger batching, right? So it came down to making tinctures out of all the flavors. So we used the same spirit essentially, and then made tinctures out of the same spirit, and then just kind of process of try and fail, right? So we would just we had an idea, we would go with it, and then we would literally add increments of, just, a milliliter or a touch of this or a touch of that, and just keep going until we made it. And here's the thing too. So that was a new process for me, was the large scaling. But at the same time, now you're dealing with raw ingredients, right? So it's not just, I'm not buying stuff and putting it in a barrel. I'm buying like raw ingredients. We're getting like real honey. We're getting, birch and figs. And the thing with like some things like birch and honey and even bourbon, it's never the same, right? So you have to literally batch every time. You have to craft it. So I'm working on building a giant cocktail every time we make a batch of the stuff. It's not just, okay, well, last time we did this is the, follow the recipe. It's never follow the recipe, because we want the product to be at least as consistent as possible, right? So we generally create a recipe every single time we batch, which is a lot of fun, but at the same time, it's a lot of work.
When you're tasting batch to batch, you're trying to make them as similar as possible, but that's going to be very difficult, right? Like the honey may have different notes than it did last time, or the birch may have different notes, or the fruit may be presenting itself in a different way. What is it that you're looking to make the most consistency with, as you know that all of that is going to be different?
Sure. So the concept is always the same, right? So like what we're putting in the bottle, it has to be slightly sweet, it has to be alcohol forward, it has to have bitters in it, it has to have floral notes. So like all those notes kind of still play. I guess if we put it in music terms, right? If there's like a band and it's like a cover band, like how close to the music, the style has to be the same, right? So it's not going to be exactly the same every time. But when you take a sip, it has to be just as delicious as the one before. And as long as we kind of come really close to that, if you had a bottle 2 months ago and you have a fresh bottle 2 months later, you're not going to say, oh, honey's way different this time, right? Like, so because what we do is, again, we balance everything. So the sip itself is balanced with all those notes that we're trying to hit. And so I think if we accomplish that every time and we come really close. And so like it's very rare that it's one item is such a far cry. Like the honey is the biggest factor, right? The bourbon has also been a big factor, believe it or not, too, right? But we've always been able to hit our marks. Sometimes it takes a little longer and sometimes it's a quick process. So the thing is when it takes a little longer, I have to call a timeout. We have to go the next day because I don't want to bottle, 1,000 bottles, half in the bag. So we have to go, wait another day.
You only get so much testing before
that's right.
The palate's blown for the
We're
day.
about
That
a
makes sense.
20 minutes. We're 20-minute builds and then we stop for the day. So, but we nail it. We're pretty good every time.
When you were doing this and slowly expanding, talk me through the shift between like the small to the big, not from the production, but from the marketing, from the packaging, from that perspective, like going from, okay, we're just doing this because they're letting us do this, but we know that that's not always going to be the case. And if we want to do this, we have to get licenses, we have to do everything. So walk me through that experience and that process that you went through.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate enough to be in the bar business for over 3 decades. So I got the one part of it down. Like there's a lot of legalities and just contacts that I have to begin with. The second aspect is the legalities when you're talking, like you just said, like licensing and TTB and all that stuff, right? We are fortunate enough to live in a day and age where there's Google and there's AI. There's a lot of tools that assist people that are in the dark, right? Number one. Number two, lawyers always help.
Yes.
They can kind of walk you through it. And then but you do have to navigate and make the right decisions, even in those categories. And I'll tell you like an example, right? The fact that it's a rock and bourbon, right? So when I launched the product, you have to write the denomination of the spirit on the bottle. It has to be in front and center, right? And I didn't necessarily want to come out with an old fashioned. I didn't want it to be an old fashioned because I felt old fashioned was very one dimensional, right? So like the only people that are going to buy it are people that want an old fashioned.
Yes.
So I already, if you do that, you eliminate a good chunk of your clientele. So, but I couldn't call it a bourbon because it's not a straight bourbon, right? So I'm like racking my head, like what's the best option here? And then flavored whiskey or flavored bourbon obviously was an option, but I knew that would also do the same thing. When you talk about flavored bourbon, that kind of also again starts to eliminate purist. So I was just scrolling through the TTB. So luckily, like these things are accessible, right?
Yep.
So I'm looking through the TTB handbook and denominations of spirits, and I saw rock and rye, which rock and rye has been something that's been around. I don't want to bore you or your audience, but it's been around for a very long time, since the 1800s. What happened was essentially they used it in like as medicine. So during Prohibition, you could go get a prescription for a rock and rye, and a rock and rye is essentially like a little bit of sugar, rock sugar, rock candy. In with the whiskey. But typically what they would do is they would add, like back in the day, before there was regulated spirits, barkeeps in the 1800s would take a barrel of whiskey and throw in rock candy and then start throwing in like orange peels and lemon peel, whatever they had available to kind of give it a little more flavor because you never knew what you were getting in a barrel of whiskey back then. So that kind of stuck really honestly into the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And even now you can go buy a bottle of rock and rye. So I saw the rock and rye denomination, and then underneath it, it said rock and cognac, rock and rum, and then it said rock and bourbon. And I said, I kind of have a rock and bourbon because it's a sweetened spirit. And then so I just kind of did the math and said, if I call it a rockin' bourbon, which it is, I can still add all those flavors, but it still says bourbon on the bottle. It doesn't say flavored bourbon. It just says rockin' bourbon. So a lot of people, based on, I'm not trying to fool people, but based on misunderstanding, they might not know what a rockin' bourbon is, right? So they
Yep.
try it based on curiosity, number one. So people that don't know will try it on curiosity. People that like bourbon will try it on curiosity as well. So it doesn't limit as much, and it kind of opens up my opportunity for introducing it to
Trial.
people,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to a flavored bourbon or a old fashioned. So that was one of the navigations tools that I had to use. So there were a lot of little things, and even in the beginning, my marketing was horrible. Like I had a label that was awful, and people used to tell me, your friends are going to tell you that, oh, it's great, it tastes great, and it looks great. But your real friends are going to tell you it tastes great, but the packaging is horrible. And so I luckily had good friends that would tell me how bad the packaging was. And I was not focused on worldwide domination at this point, or I was just trying to like say, hey, this is a good product, try it out on its own merit. That doesn't always work, right? Like you can't tell people to try it on its own merit. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of great spirits out there that are doing well, and a lot of spirits are doing well right now would not be doing well. So it's marketing is a big part of it. So like those two things I had to figure out pretty quickly.
As you continued to grow and expand, you're doing both DTC sales, you're doing the 3-tier sales. As you think about DTC, how do you think about that channel differently than your brick and mortar sales and your sales through like the normal distribution channels,
Yeah,
the other distribution channels,
sure. Brick and mortar, you're kind of at the mercy of your sales team. You're at the mercy of
the
the
distributors?
distributors that you're working with. You have to pick them wisely. And here's the thing: being in the bar business so long, to me, I feel like a lot of distributors don't know what they're doing. And I know they make a lot of money, but they make a lot of money because they sell booze. That's really the only reason. Because, there are some distributors I work with that I have a lot of respect for and love to death. But the majority of them, Fruit Loop vodka, for instance, like things like that they think of, this will kill in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And it will end up on people's shelves. Even if they do sell it, it will end up on someone's shelf and collect dust, right? So they don't sell in good faith. They sell on crazy ideas. So in
Mm-hmm.
someone like me, right, who has a product, been in the business for a very long time, buying and selling alcohol. So I know the product is good. I know it is. I don't have a question about it. I'm not guessing. I've done this for a long time. So I know it hits all the marks. And I bring it to the distributor and they say, oh, we're not sure, blah, blah, blah. And then they come out with Fruit Loop vodka the very next week. I'm like, okay, so I'm confused on what's happening here. And essentially, it takes them out of the market. DTC kind of takes them out of the equation. And I
Yep.
can say to people directly, the way I do in a bar, this is a good product and it tastes really good. And what if I can market it correctly, just to get you to try it, you're going to come back. That's the key. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the DTC market is it's on me and my product. It's not on someone else. I don't have to rely on somebody else to cross my fingers and hope it works.
When you think about how you position it online through DTC, how is that different knowing you can't show, like, have them smell, taste, do those types of things? Like, how are you thinking about getting that across in a digital frontier?
Yeah, that's that's tough, but that's I feel like that's with a lot of things in I feel like that's with a lot of things in marketing. So there's a lot of products that people show out there, and they can't until they get it, they don't know it. So you have to excite them somehow. I think we are blessed enough to have our flavor profile. People kind of can guess, right? Like when you
Mm-hmm.
say honey and you say handcrafted bitters and figs, and bourbon, people kind of get that idea, right? And so that's number one. Number two is testimonials. Obviously, I think it's really important to get people who've tried it and talk about it. There's kind of FOMO when some people hear somebody else getting something and they love it, sounds delicious, and they like it, so I want to try it. And that's kind of worked for us too. Really, is just getting it into all the bars, like and just kind of really doing social media. That's kind of been a big one, right? Like that's huge. I mean, social media is everything when it comes to DTC.
When you're doing DTC, and this may not be something you're doing, so I'll apologize. But are you thinking about like paid marketing and being like very targeted with that when you're doing it? Because I mean, you want to hit your region, you want to hit your areas, you want to hit your people. So if you're doing social content and you're amplifying it or you're boosting it or you're doing whatever, um, are you making sure that it stays within the region where you're currently selling to make sure that you're not wasting any of those marketing dollars?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually go the opposite. We are not doing really hardly any marketing here in our region because we're doing well here in Connecticut. People always support local spirits. So like we're crushing it in our market. Where I want to sell is to you in California. I want to sell 3,000 miles away. So I want to sell 2,000 miles away, 500 miles away. I want to sell where you are not. And we have some of our most loyal customers are 2,000 miles away and they order cases at a time. And so what happens is they're your best salespeople because when they're in Idaho or they're in North Carolina and they're sharing it with their friends, they're having a party, they're the best advertising you could possibly have, that word of mouth, right? And so that's where we spend most of our resources is outside of our region because that's where that missing revenue is really outside. And that's where DTC to me is most valuable, is reaching, like we have essentially the whole United States of distribution because of
Mm-hmm.
DTC, like where we don't have that. I have a few different markets that I'm in through the country, but this I can hit everybody. And so that's why it's so important.
When you do your in-person tastings, those events, you said those are top drivers for customer acquisition. When you're doing those, are you thinking of those customers as being customers? Like, how are you thinking of them as customers? Are you thinking of trying to convert them to in like buying on location, buying at a liquor store, buying online? Like, how are you thinking about that? And how are you messaging that to try and deliver what you're trying to get out of it?
Yeah, so that's all three, right? So it's on location, it's at the stores, and it's online. So for instance, we do a farmers market every year and we destroy with it. And the thing about farmers markets or even any event, forget just a farmers market, right? Is you get people that are traveling, right? And so the
Mm-hmm.
people that are traveling are the biggest connection you can possibly have, right? Because you can tell them, hey, I don't care where you live, I can get you this product. So we obviously want to sell it right there. If they're local, we want to sell it at their local store. And if they're traveling, we want to make sure we hit them where they are. So we have people that actually purchase from our state. We're here in Connecticut. We have people that buy online also. So if like for instance somebody's in like 17 towns away, um, and they're not sure where to get it, I'll give them the information. They'll email the website and I'll say, hey, you can get it at this store, blah blah blah, or you can ask any store. It's just easier. They're already online. They just click it and just say like, just ship
Mm-hmm.
it to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do any of that. Just ship me the bottle, and then we just do it that way. But for me, those I treat everybody. I can have a line, probably the longest line in the farmers market, and I will talk to every single person, and I'll find out everything I can about them. Where are you from? What are you into? Like, what do you like? Let's talk. And if they're from, like I said, if they're from Wisconsin, I can get you this product, right? And guess what? Because I know you, email me, and I'm going to give you a loyalty marker so you can get free shipping for the first order or something. You build that relationship because that's what it's all about. It's 100% relationship. So you can connect to people in person that goes thousands of miles, right? So
How do you think about using the skills that you've honed outside of the producing of drinks as a bartender when you're doing these events? Because it seems like, based on the stories that you're telling, you're doing similar things, right? Like you're the ear, you're listening. People love talking. People love when people let them talk. How do you feel like the skills that you've honed as a bartender, working in a bar, interacting with patrons, has helped with this whole venture of yours?
So event wise, I'll tell you, it couldn't be any better, right? So like I've been at a bar where it's been a busy bar, and the concept is you don't just get people their drinks, but you make them have a wonderful experience, right? So like
Mhm.
these two people walk in, sit at your bar, two people over here sit at your bar. They don't know each other, but they both know me. I introduce them to each other. Now it's a party, right? So somebody else walks in now and sees a party, and they're like, "This is a party. This is awesome. I want to
Mhm.
stay and be part of this," right? So essentially, when I'm doing these events, like, and there's like a long line, I have to start breaking the line down. I can't just keep it long talking to people. So what I'll do is I start introducing people. People go out to the side. They start asking questions. They'll go grab other people and say, "You got to come check this out." And you have to build an experience. And so the thing about my product is I would put my product up against a lot of products in my same ballpark and say it's probably as good, if not better. And maybe there's someone else's product that's a little better than mine. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build a relationship with the guest that the other person might not. And so you can buy the same car from 7 different dealerships, but you're going to go to the one that you enjoy buying from. And you're going to always give them your resources because they're putting resources back into you, whether it's an experience, whether it's trust. They trust you because you're going to follow through, like an order gets messed up and you correct it quickly, whatever it takes. But the concept is hospitality is how you make somebody feel. And so the same thing can happen with a sale. Sales is how you make someone feel, really, at the end of the day. And if you have a great product, they're going to come back 10 times, right? So you gotta have a good product too. You can sell them once, but if the product sucks, they're not coming back no matter how good you are. They'll say, I've been to places where there's awful food at restaurants and the food's bad, but the people say, the food's not good, but I really like coming to see this guy, so we come back. And they may just eat before they go in, but they do. It just happens because it's again that feeling. And so what I've done is been able to really bring that concept over to the spirit side of things, and the confidence that I have that my spirit is good, and the fact that I can connect with you is a double-sided sword that helps me, cut down trees.
When you look at your product and you look at the rise of craft, like ready to drink cocktails, how does Up and Down fit into that trend? And what are you learning about customers and what they want from those types of ready to drink products?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's kind of been one of my biggest, I would say, challenges, because it's in one sense it's a ready to drink spirit, right? It's an old fashioned in a bottle, but in another sense it also can be like we make old espresso martinis with it. We make a version of an El Chicano, like with ginger ale and bitters. We do some really fun cocktails with it too. So it's kind of a standalone product, but it's also an RTD. And it's funny you say that because we actually just came out with 2 RTDs, so we're very excited about that. But the RTD world it's a tough one because there's so many companies doing it, right? So it's the same concept. You have to have a good product, number one. Number two, you have to be able to connect. But what I realized, number three, it's really just, that's where the marketing comes in. I think you just have to, you swing and you miss, or you swing and you hit it out of the park. And we've done a good job from learning about marketing, since we've really came to fruition. And like our cans now, they're called Winmore. We have like a fun rabbit on it. It's a fun can to look at, right? And the colors are popping, and it's a really good product. So, but we've kind of walked the line of a RTD with the Up and Down. And so I think if I can figure out how to tell people it's an old fashioned without calling it an old fashioned, I'm going to win. But I'm trying to walk in both lanes. And it's working, but I think I can do better if I can really express it better. So I'm still trying to figure out that world and how we balance that out.
Justin, I want to ask you about managing cash flow, distributor payment cycles, production costs. How do you balance investing in production against slow distributor payments? And how does the direct consumer sales change that equation for you? Because any small business is going to be cash strapped between producing and selling. And then when you add on, well, we sold it, but now they're taking 60, 90, whatever amount of days to pay us, you're really tightening your purse string. So how are you managing that, and how does DTC play into it?
Yeah, so that again is that mathing we were talking about. You have to be very strategic on what you're producing, timeliness, trends, just trying to figure out like when you're going to sell, what you're going to sell. It's a craft in itself. We've gotten very lucky that we've been very mindful on timing. DTC plays in it in the sense that it's real-time cash, which is nice, opposed to, like you said, distributors sending the check. But we have to be really mindful. I mean, we're constantly scaling up. So what I mean by that is anytime our cash flow comes in, we're really not kind of pulling money out. We keep building. We keep building our inventory on bottles, on our inventory on labels, anything that we need on hand that we can keep on hand, we're spending money right back into it. So like the chances of us having to build something quickly, like for instance, if we go on a run of Up and Down or a run on the pumpkin mash, we can easily say, well, we have the bottles, we have the labels. We know that bourbon is usually a 2-week lead. We know that, we have this, we have some of that, we might need this. So it's constantly mathing. The DTC can also, it helps us 90% of the time, but also can all of a sudden surprise us, right? Like if we go on a run online sales, those are sales that we didn't anticipate at a certain time. And so it's like boom, boom, boom. Now we have to figure out, okay, we just crushed it this month online, maybe 5 times more than we did the month before. So that's not a trend. That's not a plan. That's a surprise. So then we have to kind of figure it out, right? So distributors will give you a PO, purchase order. You don't get a purchase order online. You get the actual order,
No.
right? So it's
Yes.
like you have to sell it. And so I never want to get to the point where I can't sell something online. So we always have to have product. So again, it's just a lot of mathing. It's a lot of strategy. You have to build timelines out ahead of time, and then you have to have contingency plans. You have to know that this something can happen, and how are you going to fix that, right? So what happens? What if? And we build those what ifs pretty well. We do a good job.
When you look back on your experience with Up and Down, what would you say is the thing that is the thing that you're most proud of that you've learned in that experience that you wish you could go back to younger Justin and say, hey, do this. This is what's going to make us work. But I didn't figure that out until now or whenever it happened.
Sure. Definitely the label. I wish I had a better label right off the bat. It was Rami, when I'm telling you, it was horrible. It was a horrible label. So that's the only thing. Like I said, I've been fortunate enough to learn the spirit business for a very long time. I've been buying and selling alcohol one drink at a time for a long time. I've built 12 different bar programs. So I know that side of things. I know people, I have connections, all that stuff kind of was so this was like a built-in process for me. It was really the marketing part, right? So I can go to a bar and I can say, hey, buy this from me because it's good and this is how you sell it. But when I go to a store, like a package store, that's what we call here, but a liquor store, and I say to the liquor store owner, and I say, hey, this is good. And they're like, why? Why is it good? Why are they gonna jump off the shelves? And so I can't say well, look at the label. That's why, because that wasn't going to work. And so I had to basically taste them on it and then, okay, great. It tastes good, but the label sucks and you're not going to be here. So why would I take it? And so it was really dealing with the off premise that I had to really master. And most companies start off premise. I started on premise. So I had to master that part of it. I also wish that I kind of started DTC earlier too, as well, right off the bat, as the same time, because I think I could have really put a lot of effort into expanding my sales outside my region and just building it at the same time. And so that I kind of missed the mark on that too as well. But we caught up. We're doing just as good now, if not better, off premise, and we're killing it online. So we caught up. But I do kind of wish I had those skill sets earlier on, and definitely a better label.
Yes. I feel like it's so funny when you look at a lot of brands now and you go, what were their, what was the packaging like earlier? And you're like, oh God, they never would have become who they were had it stayed what it was, because it's so bad. And I feel like that's the first thing that happens when companies start to really expand is they get their packaging in order. And you're like, oh yeah, this is packaging that is going to look good on shelf, not just online or behind the bar where no one is seeing it by itself.
Mine was if you opened someone's trunk and had all the junk in somebody's trunk of a car, they would find a bottle of that and be like, what is this? It was that bad. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah, but the stuff was good. So that was easy. Usually it's the other way around. You got a nice label or a nice package and then the stuff isn't great and it needs to keep getting upgraded. So I don't know.
You're right.
It's a good time.
You're right. The hard part would have been the other way around. That's true.
Justin, this has been a delightful conversation. I want to do a quick rapid fire with you. And then we'll wrap up. So when you're not drinking Up and Down, what's your go-to drink?
God, it's been so long since I haven't drank Up and Down. I am a big, I do like bourbon. So a really nice bourbon, probably on it by itself, either neat or probably on a nice rock is usually my go-to.
Okay.
If I'm not drinking Up and Down.
Yeah. What do you think is the most overrated cocktail trend that you're seeing right now?
So I might get some heat for this, but it's not even technically a cocktail, but I guess it is. But I think mocktails. I think the mocktail world is they're trying so hard, they're pushing so hard. You see it all the time. People come in if your mocktail or non-alcoholic beverage cocktails are not, you don't have 17 of them on your cocktail list. People are like, oh, you don't have enough. It's just I don't know. I've not seen it really catch. I hear about it, but those people aren't spending enough money, and money is really the trend. It's
Hmm.
not what you see online. It's not what you hear. People can yell from the rafters, but money is really the trend. And they're still spending money on espresso martinis. Like you can all day long say it's this or that, but at the end of the day, look at your product mix. It's always the same thing. I mean, there's a vodka I'm not going to name that is still just outselling every single person in the world. So until I see the numbers change on those, I'm not. It's really not a thing. It's a thing, but it's like a really. It's almost like when vegan stuff first started coming out. Now
Hmm.
vegan's the thing, right? Like you can have a
Yeah.
vegan restaurant, right? It is, but at the time you couldn't put all your eggs in that basket. A, because they're not vegan, but B because you could. And so like you're just not seeing the money there yet. So you always have a couple mocktails or non-alcoholic beverages on your menu because you do have to. It is a thing, but it's not the trend that I think people think it is.
Yeah, that's fair. What was the best thing about running bars that has prepared you for running a spirits brand?
Ounce cost, right? Like, so just costing in general, number one. Number two, how to deal with other bar managers, when I'm talking about my product. I've had all kinds of bars that I worked in, so I really can see the application for my product in all those different bars. And I know, I'm not going to go into a dive bar and tell them they can make, a citrus foam, paper plane, with my cocktail. I'm going to tell them, hey, man, you can just pour this in a glass, stir it, put an orange in it, and you have an old fashioned. Or, I'm not going to go into a high end cocktail bar and tell them, hey, this is good for shots, right? So I've been able to really navigate how to converse with other bar managers and bartenders. I speak the same language, so that's easy for me. So that's been one of the best, most lucrative parts of it.
Okay, and then my last question for you is, what's one ingredient every home bartender should have, but probably does not?
That's a tough one. I'm gonna probably say bitters. I think bitters or amaro. I got to, people might have bitters, but if you don't, your cocktail's just going to be, it's going to be fine. But you got to have bitters. Like to me, it changes the game. I
And
love
why
me
do we
some
want
bitters.
Amaro?
Amaro is just, it gives it like a really nice edge. Like it's funny. I'll say this quick. So I kind of brought back a grasshopper at one of my venues, and I put in, instead of making it just a basic, grasshopper, we used a Verna in it as well, and it just made it a little meaner, right? Like it wasn't just like
Hmm.
a, hey, this is soft, lovely grasshopper that we're used to. It just gave it a little kind of edge to it, and sometimes you just need that edge, like otherwise you don't want to be too cookie cutter. You want to have a little edge
Yes.
to you.
Yes. Justin, this has been a delight. I really appreciate you breaking down your journey with up and down. I think it's really valuable insights for anybody that's looking to launch their own product. This has been the business of online alcohol. Every episode, we're talking with people who are building and operating in the space, sharing what's working, and where the industry is headed. Justin, up and down, people can look for that. How else should they find you out in the world?
Yeah, so savorupanddown.com. Obviously, that's the best way, easiest way. No matter where you are in the world, you can find us. Otherwise, I'm always usually, actually, you can't find me. I'm home with the baby 90% of the time. But online, you can always get me. Yeah, so not a
Awesome.
problem.
And if you found this conversation useful, subscribe wherever you listen. If you know someone in the industry who get value, share it with them. And with that, I've been Rami, and this